It's Sunday, I think. You know, it's so crazy. Me saying it's Sunday, I think. I woke up this afternoon because I definitely didn't wake up this morning. I'm a late riser type of girl, right? And I woke up this afternoon and I had no idea what day it was. Like, I was like, it feels like a Monday, but it was not a Monday at all. It's Sunday. Anywho, I didn't want to be on here long. I say that all the time, and then I'll be on here for like 30 minutes. But this is always therapeutic to me because I get to really like express my thoughts. And I recently met a young lady who my bad, I got distracted. I recently met a young lady who told me, she was like, I really like the way you think, because as I've gotten older, like I give disclaimers now before I say things. And that disclaimer is, this is just me theorizing. I could really just be pulling this out my ass, but because I want people to know that, you know, I'm not trying to sound like I know it all or, you know, give you some crazy facts that haven't necessarily been proven. And here's the thing about proven facts, right? That don't really mean anything. But to me, over time, as I've learned, as I've grown and as I've continued to live, I have learned that that's best for me, because a lot of people do compartmentalize. Let me say this, right? We all do it. When we meet people, we categorize and compartmentalize them to decide whether or not they're somebody that we would deal with or not, or somebody that we want to, you know, continue on and, you know, socialize or have friendship with, etc., right? And so I have learned over time that when people compartmentalize me or categorize me, it tends to be the same type of, I won't say evaluation, but the same type of label. A lot of people give me the same type of label. I may say it a little different, but it's usually the same type of label. So with that being said, because, you know, there's a part of me, let me say it this way. I don't give a damn, okay, what people got to say about me, right? But I'm not a rude person, despite what people may want to believe. Sometimes people take the fact that I do not care how people label me and what they have to say about me, because that has nothing to do with me. Sometimes they perceive that as rude, right? But I'm not a rude person. I will never let a person to my face try to convince me that I'm rude. Don't go there with me, because you won't win that battle. But I do understand that people still have a lot of growing up to do, a lot of maturing to do. And so you can very well be yourself with all of the good intentions, but if they're just not there to receive the good intentions, and a lot of people aren't, then they will look for something about you. That's what's crazy to me, right? The way that people are wired, and I know it's just programming, right? From the TV shows we watch, to the books we read, etc., right? People are really programmed to pull a fine-tooth comb through people and try to find flaws. And some people are just dedicated to it. They will not trust you until they can find something that's either flawed or messed up about you. And that's their own business. Like, that just seems like a whole lot of work to me. But because people do that, you got to understand that everybody that you meet, and I think this is, I can say this and it's kind of a given. Like, people know this, right? You can meet people and they can make a bad opinion. They can form an opinion about you that's not true, but you got to give them grace. And you can also meet people from your end and not give all of yourself to that situation so quickly. I used to do that a lot when I was younger. From a bunch of stuff that I've learned over time, I understand where it comes from now. And so I'm still healing that. But now that I'm on the healed side of it, it's like I live my life trying to find the balance. A lot of what has helped me a lot is to really, really try to do my best in understanding social interaction, sociology, how society works, and what a lot of people, I'm saying a lot of people, but what I didn't realize before now is that I can really eliminate a lot of the mislabeling that comes my way by just adjusting myself to where, to things and places and people that, what's the word I'm looking for? I won't say that make me comfortable, but where I can be myself and still get things done without having to have a whole bunch of people who are not really knowledgeable enough to be aware. Let me say this, it'll make it make sense, right? For instance, I have now understood that most people in society, they don't really like to get up and run errands and complete tasks first thing in the morning. A lot of people like to get up, get their coffee, mess around, not in a sexual way, but you know what? I'm just trying not to cuss, but like F around a little bit, blow the shit, do all of that, and then they'll get their day started. And so most people, if you really pay attention and if you study, surveys and data and things of that nature, most people on a weekend primarily will wait until like the afternoon, like 10, 11 o'clock, when they really start getting active and when they really start getting busy. Also, a lot of parents who have kids and a lot of extracurricular activities, they're doing that first thing in the morning. So when I have things to do, like grocery shopping and things of that nature, because grocery shopping is a crazy situation because, literally, people think Target is an event center, It's wild that people think that, and that's okay, whatever. But the aisles are so small, and so you really don't have time, and you really don't be feeling, me personally, I don't be having time, and I don't be feeling like dealing with people 6-7 deep, just taking over the whole aisle, standing in the middle of the aisle, doing TikToks and shit, like people don't have other shopping to do, right? So to alleviate those frustrations in my life, and so that way they can do what they want to do without bothering me and I'm not bothering them, and we're not making nobody feel uncomfortable or awkward, then I go to the grocery store usually when it first opens, because it's not that many people there. There's a lot of older people there. It's a lot quieter, and there's a lot of people there who have common sense. I say that with the utmost respect, but I have also noticed that as the day progresses, as we get later into the afternoons and the evenings, that's when a lot of the younger crowds start to come out, and that youthful energy will result, if I'm not careful, in a situation where I gotta bust somebody's ass. So I know me, and I do my best to make sure that I adjust my life accordingly. Now, obviously, it doesn't happen that way all the time, and so if I do have to make an immediate store run or an emergency something and it's outside of the time and all of that stuff like that, for where I would prefer to be out and about and social in society and things of that nature, then I really do have to keep in mind, okay, this is a part of society that is, I just don't mesh with it well. And people are probably going to label me a certain way because what I'm not going to do, like, even though I'm here and I'm trying to be respectful of the fact that a lot of people that's out during this time don't have the basic sense to just think, to assess situations and do what's good for the whole. Just because I understand that a little bit more, I'm still not gonna let you act a fool, because I'm still trying to get out of this store. So, let's know that Jazz will match your energy, but in a little bit of a different way. And like I said, if it gotta go there, I don't mind busting the ass. I really don't. I don't mind it at all. But I'm gonna always take the more civil and the more mature approach. I don't know what's going on with this necklace. I'm gonna take it off. I'm always gonna take the more civil and the more mature approach. And usually, what I found is, even if a person appears to, try to come off as a badass and all that shit like that, usually if you're more civil and you're more mature, it's something about that killing them with kindness thing that will kind of kill any possibilities of escalation or anything like that. So again, like I said, it's just a matter of learning. But I actually don't even remember what I came out here to talk about. Oh, yes, I do. So with all of the extra out the way, right? I had a situation over the past few days where I was back and forth between my emotions about it and my reason about it. And I have learned over time that it's best to allow yourself to kind of go through those flips and switches, because we're human and there's just things that happen in our life that cannot fully be resolved by feeling it, sitting in your feelings. There's not things in our lives that can be fully resolved by sitting down and like coming up with the reasons why and all of that stuff like that. Sometimes some things are so they're so intertwined in our lives, and when we need to make a decision, when we need to make a change, we really do have to go through the motions of it. And so that's what I allowed myself to do. And when it all was said and done, after understanding how I was feeling and being able to reason how I was feeling and being able to really understand the whole entire situation from a more logical perspective, like really calling out the truths about it and all that stuff like that, I decided this no longer serves me and I'm moving on. And this is not an area in my life that I have not exercised often. This is an area in my life that I have to exercise a lot. And I've learned through counseling and therapy and things of that nature that a lot of that comes through from the fact of, I grew up in an environment where I was taught things that made me basically choose people based on emotional reasoning rather than a combination of emotional reasoning and logical reasoning and rational reasoning and things of that nature. Often in the Black community, we are taught, these principles of loyalty and love, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think enough Black people can agree with me when I say oftentimes those lessons and those expectations of love and loyalty are so extreme and to the extreme that we don't what's the word I'm looking for? A thought ran through my mind and I got distracted. We don't know when enough is enough, right? We believe wholeheartedly that I got to go through this hardship because this is the only way that the bond is going to be built, and it's going to build an unbreakable bond, and et cetera, and et cetera, and et cetera. And I just don't believe that that's true. A lot of education and studies and therapy, all of that stuff compiled together and being presented to me has shown me what those things, what loving and being that loyal beyond the limits can do, on top of experience and seeing things from my own eyes that help me realize over time, wow, I really don't want that for my life. And about 5 years ago, I started to be able to say that confidently. Like when things would happen or I would see certain things, I would look at it and say, I do not want that for my life. And I think there's something powerful in making that recognition or making that observation, because then you start to try to figure out how to not necessarily avoid that, but how to find a life that you want to live. And I think that that's more important than trying to figure out how to avoid something, because then you train your brain to avoid, rather than training your brain to advance and progress and go towards the things that you actually want to do and achieve. It's so fascinating to me in the studies and in the industry of psychology, how if you take enough time to learn the brain, you realize that the brain is very powerful, but it is also very submissive to the vessel that it serves. So if I it really comes down to what I tell my brain to do. If I tell my brain, wow, I don't want that for my life, let's avoid that, then my brain does everything to avoid that, and that doesn't always make me achieve things. But if I tell my brain, wow, I don't want that, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z, then instead of avoiding, I achieve. It's so crazy how it's literally just a matter of the way you program your brain to start to search for the solutions that you may not have in front of you. Because it really is like when people say the sky is the limit and nothing is too hard for God and nothing is impossible if you set your mind to it. Shoot for the moon, and at least if you don't reach the moon, you'll fall amongst the stars. All of that stuff is real, but it's just a matter of what you tell your brain you want to do. Are you speaking in a voice of fear to say, let's avoid that because I don't want that? Because that will make a difference in how you get to where you're trying to go. Or are you talking in confidence and in strength and in faith saying, I don't want that. What do I need to do to achieve this thing over here that I do want? And let me say this as well. Just because you decide to take a different path that doesn't take you down a path of a series of unfortunate or unfavorable events, that does not mean you're not going to go through things, because every achievement has levels within it that you have to go through, both good and bad, both rewarding and challenging, and you just can't get past that. So don't think that just because you face a challenge on the journey of your achievement that you are going down the wrong path, or that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna end up living my life in a way that I don't want to live it. No, you really have to trust the process. Trusting the process is something that I am still mastering and still learning, and oh my gosh, just trust the process. You need some type of faith system. I told somebody that the other day, they was asking me a question, and I was just sitting there and I was like, baby, you have to get you some type of faith system, because the questions that you asking cannot be answered through the avenues that you're taking. Psychology and therapy and all that stuff, yes, but it is very much textbook and very much business operated. So they are trained to say certain things and introduce you to certain things and not get involved in certain parts of your life for the purposes of litigiousness, okay? But if you can remove yourself, yes, get that help, because it is very helpful. I'm not saying that to discredit the field of psychology and therapy and things of that nature. It is very helpful. But outside from the textbook way of doing things, which are very resourceful, there's experience that the textbook is not resourceful about. So for those things in life that you don't understand, you got to get some type of faith-based systems, and you got faith-based system, and you have to understand, you have to 100% understand parts of it, or the parts of it that will help you get through parts that you don't understand, so you don't perceive them as, I have lost, I am failing. If I can make a recommendation, the gospel, the good, hardcore Jesus Christ, Yahweh, Yeshua, Holy Spirit gospel, it's good. Start there if you don't know where to start. But going back, I digress. But when I made this decision, I knew, right? I knew what was going to happen, because I've made these type of decisions before. And in that moment, I told myself, I said, I don't want this. And I got very specific about what I don't want. I don't want this hurt. I don't want this sadness. I don't want this confusion. I don't want this disgust. I don't want this distress. I don't want these things that come with this situation. I don't want this feeling of rejection. I don't want this feeling of abandonment. I don't want this feeling of not feeling good enough. I don't want this feeling of continuing to search for my meaning in it. And so because I don't want these things, and this seems to be the only things that come from this seems to be the produce of what this situation is all about, I'm done with it. And I'm not walking away from it for a reaction. I'm not walking away from it for a temperature check. I don't care if they're checking for me or not. That's not why I'm removing myself from this situation. I'm removing myself from this situation because I have reached a point where I understand what's good for me requires me to choose what's good for me. It's not magic. It's not fairy dust. It's not manifesting. It's not a bunch of mantras. It's not a rose bath. It's not a rose quartz bath. It's not a jade crystal. It's none of that. It's not a best friend coming over. It's none of that. It's literally me maturing to a point where I understand that if I want good, I have to choose good. And if I don't know what good is in that moment, I can assess a situation and say, well, I know that this doesn't feel good. And here's the thing, to go back what I said to what I said about just making decisions that are keeping you in a cycle that's damaging versus facing a challenge. Challenges still have some type of reward at the end of it. You go through that hardship because you're going to get something at the end of it. Like if you go after your degree, right? You're going to face some challenges as you go through your degree program. But you know that the hardship that you're going through is necessary for the degree that you want to get at the end. Okay? If you're in a relationship, because this is a common theme with Black women for sure. If you are in a relationship going through hardship And there's nothing on the other end of that hardship that you can really like put your stamp on, that you can hold as tangible evidence. I'm going through this because at the end of this, I'm going to gain trust, love, bond, etc. That hardship is not a challenge. That is literally a hardship that is damaging you. And you will train your brain to be damaged in order to try to seek some type of reward, and then the cycle just continues. Some psychologists call it breadcrumbing, but I don't know a lot about that, so I'm gonna stay off of that. Some people may know about it, but I feel like a lot of Black women go through that because we saw a lot of our mothers and grandmothers and aunties and cousins and sisters and whoever else go through these relationships that were hard. And every now and then we saw the man get in line, or we saw the man get his act together, and that was really just a breadcrumb because he was only doing that so that way he can continue to do the BS that he was doing. And once he realized that he was good and set and comfortable, he would go back to the things that caused the damage and the pain in the first place. Let me just say that any man who is willing to set you up and hope that you're comfortable enough so he can keep you around while he go and do the stuff that he want to do, that's not a man that loves you. Because a man that loves you a man that loves a woman does not want his woman to be hurt and damaged. That's not saying that he's going to be perfect and there's not going to be things that he does that does not hurt you, but he is not doing things either intentionally or repetitively to put you in a place to where your hurt is damaging. Because I've heard psychologists say it, I don't know the studies behind it, but 3 years in a consistent damaging situation, it is hard AF to get out of. So if you've been in a situation more than 3 years and it has not gotten better, then I can understand why you're in the situation, because like I said, they say 3 years of toxicity and you do not get out of it, it will be harder for you to recover, and you may not recover at all. That ain't worth it, okay? It's highly recommended that when you find something about a situation that impedes your boundaries, that you leave it alone. Because if you let it sit in there too long, then, the psychological effects are extremely damaging, and we're trying to get away from that. We don't want to keep doing that to ourselves, right? So with that being said, I made that decision, and I knew it was going to be hard, but because I've had to make this decision so often, I have a Bible verse that I quote. It's in my bathroom. I can't remember exactly what it is. But anytime I'm feeling like down about a decision that I had to make that I knew was going to be for my good in the end, I read that scripture. And then I also have gotten to a point, and I'm so thankful. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, that I do things and I say, prepare for the reality. Because when I was younger, I used to think that making a better decision meant that once I closed my eyes for 8 hours and then opened them after that, 8-hour period of being asleep, that things were just going to be totally different. And I would get extremely disappointed and be sadder than I should be, and sadder for way longer than necessary, because I thought that when I woke up, it was going to be magically different, right? Here's the thing about that. It is different, right? But you just don't see it yet. You haven't done enough consistent work in the decision that you made for you to be able to see, okay, yes, the magic has already happened, right? But magic is not instantaneous, and I hate to use the word magic, but let's say this: good change is not instantaneous. And when you make a decision and you wake up the next day or you face it again, you have to be able to say, man, here's the reality of it, right? You have to be able to look at the reality of it, and now I'm able to do that. And I know sometimes I have made decisions where I woke up the next day and I'm perfectly fine, right? I may not actually start to feel those feelings until days later. Sometimes I wake up and it hits me like a train wreck, and I used to try to avoid that feeling because I wanted to believe like, oh, my decision was made in my strength and I'm strong. I'm not going to let this affect me. The truth about it not letting you affect you is this: it's no longer going to affect you in the negative cycle that you were in. You're done with that. That's behind you. You ain't got to worry about that no more, right? As long as you don't go back. But it is going to affect you. The aftermath of that decision is going to affect you because you still have to feel whatever is coming for you to heal. It is nothing that you can do about it. We get sad and we hurt, we get depressed, we get disappointed. The thing about it is that we just want to make sure that we're not allowing it to become a chronic state of sadness, depression, disappointment, distress, despair, and all of that negativity. So go ahead and feel it. Go ahead and feel it. Go ahead and feel it and let it feel until it don't feel no more, because I promise if you do that, you'll feel a whole lot better. You know, I used to believe, you know, because therapists used to teach, you know, you want to sit in your feelings. And I used to think sitting in my feelings meant that I had to be sad for 24 hours or 48 hours. And that is just not the way to go. Now, I've allowed myself to feel it. And it usually don't take no more than about 4 or 5 minutes. I like to compare it to children. Like when you see children, they throw in a tantrum, how long does it last? Maybe like 5-10 minutes. And then when they're done, they literally go back to living their life until the next catastrophe happens. But you know, in their eyes, right? But that's what immaturity is. Like, because you don't know, and you walk into catastrophe after catastrophe after catastrophe. But when you're younger, you have somebody there to guide you, and you get to be really sad and really hurt because you made a terrible decision or you did a terrible thing, and you won't do it anymore. But you still, you're talking about the children, but you still got to get it out. And then as you get older, you will still face challenges, but you won't just willingly walk into them. But when you do have to make changes, because you know our lives are connected to other people who may not be on our level mentally, who may not be on our level emotionally, who may not have the type of intellect and things that we're working on as we continue to go through life, it is going to make you feel a type of way. And you do have to feel it. You got to have an adult temper tantrum. You got to get it out. 5-10 minutes, shake it off and move on, right? That don't mean that in the next 2-3 days you may not feel something else, but you just got to feel it until you get through it. And that's what you want. That's what you want. You want to get through it. You have to get through it. And once you realize, I think the most powerful thing that a person can realize is that when they decide they want to do something different, when they decide they want better, when they decide they want to do something that they've never done before, having the confidence to know that I can command this in my life, pray about it, make sure it's in alignment with the way that God wants it, right? Because I've also learned, you know, a lot of people growing up, especially Black, we be like, oh, if it's in God's will. And for the longest, that was taught to us like it was something of magic. But really, to be completely honest, God's will is you doing it in the way that He wants it to be done. So for instance, if you say, I want to be married, then you have to follow God's will for marriage. And if it's in God's will, not if this man is in His will, because you get so many people, well, I prayed for God to send me a man and He sent me a man and that man wasn't the man. Well, y'all was hunching from day one, shacking up. That's not in God's will for marriage. So no, you were not going to get to marriage. And if you did get to marriage, it probably was the worst marriage you've probably ever been in. You probably compared your marriage to other good marriages and wonder why your marriage could not be what it could be, but not realizing at the same time that it will never be what you want it to be because you started out not in God's will, right? So praying about it. God, what do you expect? How do you expect for me to have a successful career? How do you expect for me to be a woman in leadership? How do you expect for me to be a wife? How do you expect for me to be a mother? And following God's rules to make sure that what you want is in His will. Because here's the thing, there are some things that we may want that are not His will, right? Like attaining riches through wicked practices. God, I want to be rich. Well, God is like, well, I don't do rich, right? I don't operate in rich. I give you what you need by way of what you are willing to put in and by way of what I've given you in your lifetime or in your human experience. So if you want to be Beyonce, but God already gave Beyonce, and you praying for what Beyonce got, that's not in God's will, right? Not to say that you can't be a performer, not to say that you can't be a blah, 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 blah. But if that's not what you were designed to do, it doesn't, you can want to be that all day. Really, let me tell you what it is. It's nothing wrong, especially for young black women, to see Beyonce and say, I want to be as big as Beyonce. I want to be well known and well respected, like, and a household name like Beyonce, right? But the truth of the matter is, you might not know how to dance. You might not know how to sing well. You might not know how to be meticulous about production and performance and whatever else. Listen, I'm not in that industry, so I have no idea. Also, take into consideration that Beyonce has been doing this since she was, what they say, knee high to a grasshopper. Is that what it is? Yeah, whatever. But since then, so Beyonce has had an extensive, a career of longevity in the music industry, and you're not going to enter the music industry at a level that is beyond Beyonce at any point. There are people in the industry right now who were in the industry before Beyonce was even thought of, and Beyonce has surpassed them because at some point they got stagnant, they got still, and it is what it is. You can't be mad at somebody for knowing what they're good at and going in an industry that supports what they are good at and watching them progress along the way and make millions of dollars for what they're good at, because Beyonce was smart enough to do what she was good at. Beyonce is smart. I've watched some interviews with her lately, and I'm like, man, this woman is a machine. Like, algorithm. And you're going to pay her for it. Like y'all want the money for performance, y'all going to pay me for my technique. Check my technique, you know? But nonetheless, to get back on track, what I'm saying with all of that is this, right? You may go out here and you may say, God, I want to be in the music industry. Help me be in the music industry. But you can't accept that you're not well enough to be able to be in the music industry and follow an ethical code that allows you to stay in the music industry. If you're not talented enough to be in the music industry, you're going to have to bend and do some things that you may not want to do. But people who actually have that talent, like her is very talented. I'm sure she can do a lot of things without doing a lot of things to get to where she want to be. Alicia Keys, she's a beast with that piano. She can literally do anything she wants to do as long as she incorporates that piano in it. And so she can move around the industry without having to compromise on her ethics and her morals because she belongs there, right? So many other examples that I can give, right? But what I'm saying is that sometimes you're going to get to a place, right? And you're going to want that thing because somebody has inspired you not to do what they do, but to go off and be great at what it is that you're great at. And if you get there and there's more rejection, and then you start to feel like you got to bend on your morals and ethics to have it, then that's not in God's will. That's not in God's will, because inevitably you're going to break a law that God has set for you to protect you, to have something that he don't want you to have. I tell people all the time, God's rules and his precepts and his laws are not because he doesn't want you to have fun. It's that he wants you to have fun without being damaged in the process, or without being damaged in the aftermath, or without being damaged while you're trying to receive it and while you're in pursuit. If you understand that, then you be like, all right, God, what is your will for me? What is your will for this? And please help me to have discernment, so that way if I get a little into it and I realize I ain't really got the talent to do this, I can go and try to find me something else. Because we're not trying to bend rules and morals to fit in. You can't want to be down that bad. Please. Don't want to be down that bad. It's not worth your soul in the end. It's not worth your peace of mind in the end. It's not worth any of that. But once you start to understand, like, okay, I want better, I'm going to do better. One of the most rewarding things in life is when you have that confidence that when you make those decisions, you know that you can freely go in the direction that you want to go in, with the support of the Lord, with the support of God, and the support of the people who are going to show up. Because here's the thing. Let me tell you, let me give you the GAME. Everybody that you knew before you made that decision is not going to be somebody that you can lean on for support, because everybody ain't where you are. Everybody ain't trying to do what you're trying to do. Some people don't belong in the industry that you're going to end up in. Some people don't follow the faith that you have. Some people profess the faith, but they live a life on a totally different value system than that. Some people don't think like you. Some people aren't as smart as you. And we got to really start to be more accepting of the fact that there are stupid people in the world. And you know some stupid people. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, because you might be stupid to somebody. But the truth of the matter is that, and I might be stupid to somebody, but the truth of the matter is that I'm well within myself to know my limits and to know what I need. Because if I want my master's, but nobody around me has ever went to college, then I can't get support from them, because everything out of their mouth is going to be why college doesn't matter, but it matters to you. We've heard a million arguments. Don't go to college, it's just a scam, it's blah, 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 and it's going to take up all your money for you to just end up in debt and not be able to get a job that pays for it. Go get a trade, and this is that and the other. Please let me say this, and I'm only saying it with love. If you step on somebody's toes, then I think your toes may be meant to be stepped on with this statement. Everybody is not college material. That's why before we became liberal about the college system, it was very selective, because everybody is not college material. I'm sorry. If you graduated from high school with a 1.9, a 2.0, a 2.3, you might not be college material. But there are still ways for you to get into the collegiate system by way of what the liberal, democratic, political voices have done. That's great, because sometimes people go through high school and weren't able to adjust, or maybe that high school was hard for them socially, and so they made low grades, but when they get into the collegiate system, they are college material. The problem is as a society, we want everything expedited. So if you are truly not college material, but you do have potential, and they tell you, well, you need to go this route first, and then you can be a part of this. Most of us in society, we don't want to go through this part first. We want this because we see people who have this and it looks great and it looks like it's going to yield a fantastic reward. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to do this because you didn't do what you needed to do to skip this line to be here, then, we get all of this rallying up and rioting up and open up the gates, and then it opens up the gate and a bunch of people who don't deserve to really be here, and we'll find out later that they never really even wanted to be here anyways, and are taking up spots for people who should be here, and etc. and etc. Then we get this big lie that further education or higher education is not good, and it's a scam and it's a ripoff, and it's like, no, we just have to go back to the foundational principle that you just wasn't college material from the jump. Everybody ain't college material. And with that being said, yes, people can go out here and they can get a trade and they can do awesome. I know people who have gotten their trades and certificates and things of that nature, knew they didn't want to go to college, ain't bashing college because they didn't want to go to college, and got into a trade and are making well over 6 figures, run their own businesses, have their own schedules, do what they want to do, shit without having to be monitored and asked why you're not at your desk. I know a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, but I know some people who have gone this route in life, but you know what type of mindset you have to go that route in life. You got to have a mindset that isn't rooted in comparison. You got to know what's good for you, and you got to understand that, hey, you might be college material, which means that you might be able to get better paying jobs or benefits, or you may make more money than me, on a yearly basis. But also understanding that just because that looks like something that I might want, don't mean that I have what it takes to upkeep what's necessary for me to be able to do that. Everybody out here talking about they want to make 6 figures, and I don't think a lot of people understand that 6 figures means you have to work a whole lot more than your $40,000 salary. See, your $40,000 salary is stressful because you have to deal with a whole bunch of ignorant, stupid people, right? But just because you get to a point where you're making $100,000, that don't mean that you're not dealing with ignorant, stupid people. You just don't deal with them in a massive way. You actually got to look at these people every day. See, right now at the $40,000 an hour, you get these people on and off the phone or in and out your face, and they go on about their business. You may not ever see that person again. But at $100,000 plus and more, you sit in the boardroom and have meetings with these people once a week, sometimes 7 times a week, and they get on your nerves, and you got to have the maturity to still be able to do your job and let this person get on your nerves without you blowing up and having an emotional catastrophe and an emotional breakdown. That's 6-figure work and more, right? That's six-figure work means you probably gonna miss a couple of outings, and you might not get to go to brunches, and you're gonna have to drive long hours on a day-to-day basis, and you making that money, but you may not really get to enjoy it right away. You watching it come in, and you watching it stack up, and it looks tempting to go out here and spend it, but you don't really got time to right now because you got deadlines to make. And if you don't make them deadlines, you're not going to make that money no more. And a lot of people just don't want that type of stress. It's okay to say, I don't want that type of stress. It's okay to say, I'm good with taking the stairs, and I'll get to $100,000 because I'm eventually going to build my skill up to a point where I'm going to get this $100,000. Now, the reality of going the trade route, it means it's going to take a little bit longer for you to see that type of money come in and that type of income come in because you have to build skill, right? If you college material, you can learn a broad range of skills within a short amount of time and go immediately into the corporate world and make some dang good money quicker than a person who may do a trade. But that's because you were meant to do that, right? You understand that. You go to college, you realize soon enough, like, oh, this is actually preparing me for corporate jobs. And this is what my corporate job is going to look like. If you get into your college profession, or you get into the college, you get in something on a collegiate level, and you can't keep up with the thing that you're interested in, then you can rest assured that you ain't going to survive on a corporate business level. You're not going to be hireable, right? And there's a lot of people in the world. I know for me, I have determined, yes, at some point I would like to run my own business, but I would also like to be employable. I would also like to be hireable, and I would also like to work for corporations who have their foot in the game and have stood the test of time, so I can learn from them. That way, when I go and start my business, I'm not just starting my business because I don't want to work for somebody anymore. I'm starting my business because I want to be competitive and profitable and have a long-standing business that my children or my grandchildren or whoever is suitable to run that business can do that later on in life. I want my brand to be a recognizable brand that people respect, and it stands the test of time. Every business can't stand the test of time. But I'm not going to go down into that rabbit hole. I've done a report on it, so I'm going to let it be what it is. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things about a lot of things, and it's easier to just stick with what you know, and then try to find some reason, be mad about it, and try to discourage other people from going that route because you didn't want to make the changes necessary to go that route. But the reward of being able to say, I want to do something different, and knowing that you can, and getting into it and figuring out what I got to do to get here and what I got to do to achieve this, and knowing that the challenges are going to come, and leaving your mind open to meet new people who will come in and support you as you go through this thing is really good. It's really good. That is a reward, because I have lived my life at a time where I knew I wanted better, but I didn't think that I was able to achieve walking away and doing something that I actually wanted to do. I thought that I was worried about, oh, is this person going to be mad, or how is this person going to feel? Let me give you another piece of GAME. Let them be mad and let them feel. They will get over it or they will not. But what they choose to do in the end does not make a difference with what you got going on and what direction you're going into in your life. If they never get over it, then you will go on in your life knowing that they never got over it. If they do get over it, then you will go on in your life seeing that they have got over it. And then there may be a benefit for them to be connected to somebody that has done certain things and is doing certain things. Not saying that you want people around you that will connect with you so they can drain you, so they can be an energy drain, but just knowing that, hey, at the end of the day, we're not here to be dependent on each other. We're here to support each other. But I don't care whether you approve of what I got going on or not, because what I'm doing is better for me. This is what I've chose for me, because I've decided, I'm looking around at this friendship circle. All you niggas do is sit around every day after work and drink and smoke and watch a bunch of stupid TV that's programming your brain to stay right here in this place. I don't want this. I want to achieve getting a degree and meeting friends who like to go and do social events after work that include hobbies that continue to create positive pathways in our way of thinking, so I can continue to find that thing that makes me happy and makes me money and makes me joy and peace and passion and whatever else. You can do it. And yes, sometimes it takes some time to learn how to walk away A lot of times the challenge isn't even within the journey that you're gonna take. A lot of times the challenge is in the walking away from the things that are sucking you into a vacuum that's continuously moving you away from where you want to be. But yeah. Ooh, excuse me, I talk too much. Do what's best for you, and I've talked way more than I wanted to. But again, this is my therapy. I enjoy doing this, and I actually have some other videos that I need to post. I'm gonna get to posting those. I just haven't had time. Like I sit down and I do this regularly, and then I'll go through and listen to them when I feel like I need to listen to them, and then I will put it out there and say, well, if it helped me, then it might help somebody else. Whether they watch it or not, that's not my business. But yeah, that's the tea right now. Yeah, let me get off here. I'm bored, clearly. Bye.